Hello, I believe we are now live to the world on Facebook, so Zoom tells me. Hello, I'm gonna give it a couple of minutes for everyone to hopefully log on with their cup of tea or their lunch, hear about some audience development. Always a little bit strange, kind of sat here talking to myself at the start of the session, but just want to make sure everybody has enough time to join in, get their cuppers ready, get settled down. It's a really nice day outside, so I'm hoping everyone's logging on from the garden, and if you're not, maybe you should just go in the garden after this session because the sun is shining here in sunny Hertfordshire. All right. Give it another couple of minutes and see if we got enough people joining in. Maybe I'm talking to myself, but it'll be good practice. Been on our own for a long time these last 15 months. So, all right. It's now officially past 1 o'clock. Give it one more minute and then I'll get cracking. So, hello everyone. My name is Dawn James. I'm the Sales and Marketing Director at Park Theatre in Finsbury Park. So what I do at Park Theatre, I'm a member of Park Theatre Senior Management Team. I head up the Sales and Marketing Team, which consists of Marketing Manager, a Sales and Ticketing Manager, a team of box office supervisors, and a couple of interns as well. So on the marketing side, mainly my role involves heading up marketing campaigns for in-house productions, supporting visiting producers with their campaigns, acting as Park Theatre's brand guardian, looking at audience insights, setting the overall audience development strategy and implementing that, supporting the development departments and creative learning with their campaigns, and really looking at overarching communications and messaging of Park Theatre as a whole on all of our channels via press, social media. And on the sales side, I will always be looking to maximise revenue, as Park Theatre is not a venue that is regularly funded by the Arts Council or by local councils. So we're always looking towards our ticketing prices and ticketing strategy and how we can maximise that, looking at sales and booking patterns and trying to analyse what customers are doing. So my particular connection with the King's Head, I guess, is through Oscar, who's our marketing manager. We have known each other for a good few years. We occasionally meet up, North London clique of theatre venues, and we pick each other's brains and just kind of share ideas. And a few years back in 2016, the King's Head and Park Theatre did a production together called Boys in the Band by Mark Crowley, which starred Mark Gatiss, was really successful. It transferred to the West End. So we're, as two venues, we're not far away from each other, and we do share our thoughts and occasional production from time to time. So the kind of work that I'm interested in is I'm a big fan of new writing. We do a lot of that at Park Theatre. We have two spaces. So we have Park 200, which is the more commercial space, and we have Park 90, which is a black box studio space. And we do a mix of revivals and new writing in both of those spaces. I particularly love working on stuff that's new. And things that are just really of the moment get me going. So things that we've had that have been really timely. We had a show in 2018 called Building the Wall, which was about a post-apocalyptic future where a wall has been built in America. And that was literally around the rise of Trump and him saying, we're going to build a wall around Mexico. And it just became more prevalent with each passing day. And so I really, really enjoy working on those kinds of projects. In terms of my own journey into the industry and kind of how I ended up at Park Theatre, I started, probably you could say I started in the industry when I was about 12 years old, going to my local Amdram, as a lot of young people do. And I went on to study modern drama at Brunel University. And after that, and after a lot of trying, I managed to get an internship at a little arts centre in Brentford called Waterman's, which involved doing lots of things like production, admin, HR, and also marketing. And I hadn't studied marketing, but I really enjoyed doing it. I enjoyed doing the social media side of it. I enjoyed taking the photos and kind of doing all of those sorts of things. So I kind of ended up following that as a path, and managed to extend that little 10-week internship into something that lasted about 8 months. And then I got another short contract at Academy South Asian Dance, also doing a marketing assistant job, and managed to get that extended as well. I used to hate when I was earlier in my career, when I was a student, and people used to say to me, oh, you just got to get your foot in the door. And I would say, yeah, what does that mean? Like, literally tell me what it means and how to actually do it. And I've come to realize that it's not a case of so much as getting your foot in the door. What that sort of means is just, if you put yourself in the right place around the right people, then the opportunities come to you. So when I was at Waterman's, we had a couple of shows by Academy South Asian Dance, and then because there was that connection there, which is something I wouldn't have had previously, it gives you that tiny little thing extra, which means that door opens a tiny crack further into the next job and into the next job. So it's less a case of putting your foot into the door, and mainly a case of just looking where the cracks are in the door and then exploiting those cracks. So I guess that's what I did. After I was at Academy, I went over to Polka Theatre, lovely children's theatre. And then I went to the Tricycle, now known as Kiln Theatre. Love those guys. And then I first came over to Park Theatre as sales and marketing manager. And then after a couple of years, was able to become the sales and marketing director and grow a team around me, which started from a team of exactly one with me into the team I have now, which has been a great journey. And I've been there for 5 years, and we're looking forward to reopening in the summer. So what does my day-to-day life look like? At the moment, a lot of working from home with 2 cats bugging me all over the place, daily catch-ups with the team on Zoom, sending motivational tracks to each other via YouTube, trying to keep things going. And we're hoping for a phased return to the office in about July, with a combination of working from home and working in the office. So generally I'm a big list maker. I generally start the day by consulting all my timelines and lists and plans, putting all this information onto the team lists, the team Trello boards, emptying my brain out, and then just powering through for the rest of the day. That's the kind of person I am. I'm a big list maker, and I like to power through. So yeah, that's a little bit about me and what I do. If you do have any questions about the main thrust of the topic as I'm talking, then just fire away, and Oscar will pass them over to me, and I would love to answer as many as you can. There is no dumb question. I started out with any formalized marketing training and learned everything on the job, so please do fire away. So what we're going to be talking about today is why your show isn't for everybody, and why defining and then finding your audience yields better results. So a lot of meetings I have with producers start with them saying, this show is for everybody. And I say, I don't think it is. It's probably not as appealing to a 4-year-old as a 25-year-old or a 65-year-old. And there are probably themes and cultures and subjects that will appeal to different groups. Defining and targeting your audience, you're going to make a better use of a limited budget. But also, that's not to say that anybody that's outside of that list you've created for yourself can't enjoy a story from another culture or time period or whatever, but you're making the best use of the resources you've got in a targeted way. So the first step to me defining the audience is to read the script. You read the script, you look for themes. Is this, for example, an all-female cast? Is it set within a particular culture? We've got a 9 Nights Trinidadian show coming up. So is it something like that? Is it LGBT? Does it tie into a theme in the public consciousness at the moment, such as mental health awareness? Or does it tie into the local area of the theatre? Or is it a revival? Is it something like Tennessee Williams? Everyone's seen it, they know what that is. Is there something else you can tap into with that? So defining all of those things and kind of jotting all of that down as you read the script. It seems obvious, but sometimes just reading the copy isn't enough, and definitely getting into the script will help you pick out those key things. The second step for me is to talk to the artists and the creatives on the project. Does the writer, the director, do they have a personal connection to the story? Is it a true story? Can you use their backstory in any of your marketing materials or press? Where have they worked at other venues? Can you contact those venues and retarget people, from those venues? That will help you. Is this play part of a series? Is it number 3 in a 3-part series? So using the team that's coming attached to the project, what connections do they have? Are they really connected to the local community centre? Can they use that to help market this production? That's really key, is finding out what skills you've got in the team. Step number 3 for me will be thinking how this crosses over to previous Park Theatre productions. It is much easier and cheaper to encourage someone who's already been to your venue to come again than it is to find a new audience. So working with the venue will really help you there. Venues that use Spectrix or another similar box office system can build specific customer lists based around booking patterns like musicals. We have a lot of Jewish plays at Park Theatre, so you can tag all of those. You can tag people that are students. There's all sorts of ways you can mine the data that you already have to find that audience as well. Step 4. What else is there? What else is there around? How does the play feel to you using your gut? Does this show feel like it's for a younger crowd, even though it may not specifically say it? Maybe one of the characters is really engaging, that's a younger person. Or is it for more of a traditional theatre going audience? Is it a revival? A title people have heard before. Are there other ways you can categorize the people that you need to find? For example, we have our database tagged via the audience agency segments, which come with funky names like Metroculturals and Kaleidoscope Creativity. But each one of those groups comes with a definition of characteristics, of where they live, of their booking patterns, of income, of barriers to attendance, all sorts of these things. And that can also be a helpful way to think about who this show might be appealing to as well. And then if there's anything else to think about, you should probably do this at the start actually, although I've put it at the end of this list, is, what is the objective of the writer or the director or the venue in putting on this play? Is the writer saying to you, my objective is that I want every school child in Islington to see this play? Well then great, that's a really clear directive for you. And then are there other people that can help you with that, such as your venue's creative learning department, or perhaps people in the cast are teachers or on teaching unions and they have ins in that way? So what is the objective? Because rarely with anything is it, oh, we just want to put on something nice, so there's going to be a reason why you're doing it, and then that's going to help. So after that, move on to the how. Once you've defined your audience, then you're thinking, how am I going to find them? That is the really difficult part. There is no easy answer, and you kind of are just chipping away at it and putting lots of fingers in lots of pies and hoping that one of them comes up gold. So if you are someone who's starting out in marketing, or if you're a director or a producer, I always think that it's not just marketing people that need to think about this. It's producers, it's directors, it's writers need to be involved in this process and think about how you're going to get there. So do work with the venue. They should be able to help you with previous audience and booking data, and send out some targeted communications for you. But that on its own isn't going to sell every ticket. So it is important to think about your contribution to that. Starting with the image, you should create a lead image for your show that really speaks to the target audience. When you look at that image for your show, is that image saying, this is for me? As I mentioned, we have a Trinidadian show coming up. So picture that image in your mind. What does that evoke? What faces do I need to see in that image? Which is going to say to people out there, this show is for me. And then where is that image being seen? So I generally tend to think about things being seen 3 times. Someone might see it on Facebook, get it in an email, and then see it on the tube, and then they might just book. So if you've got a great poster or a great image, it needs to be in the right place, which, for example, depending on the theme of the show, could be in around Soho if it's an LGBT production. Do research, see where those target groups are. That also feeds into distribution, which is a bit pre-COVID because no one's really doing flyers, that you can pick up that might have COVID on them anymore. But you can also do targeted door drops for barbershops or to other theatres or in top postcodes where that, the audiences that you want to go to. And there's lots of targeted e-shots that you can use as well. The temptation is to think, oh my God, we've got to have a big expensive ad in Time Out. We've got to be in Time Out for everyone to know our show is on. It's not necessarily the case. And there are lots of other ones that are targeted that can still yield great results, such as Aphrodisiac, All Africa, Boys Magazine, LGBT, Stage Door, which is for really people that are, love a bit of theatre. They may have less subscribers in Time Out, but they're equally as good in building audiences. Social and paid social is brilliant and will probably be the cornerstone of a campaign with a limited budget where you're trying to target a specific group, because you can be really targeted with that. You can work with the venue to upload previous booker data if it's GDPR compliant. You can create your own lists based on interests, as I said, musical theatre, something like that. You can do geo-targeting based on postcodes. You can target based on age. You can target based on students, their universities where they're studying. But what you'll need to make those really work for you is high quality video content, short, snappy, something that really works. So investing in content is going to be really key with the paid social. And then on the digital side, there are things like Google Display Network banners, which is those banners you see at the top of The Guardian or something like that, which, scrolling shows around. Google AdWords, which is when you search for something, the first box is a little green box which says ad next to it. You can pay for coverage targeting different groups with those things. You could work with a venue or with a media agency to do that. And there are some tutorials where you can teach yourself how to do it as well if you're feeling inspired, although it can be quite a lot of, you might need to put quite a lot of investment in it to get a return back. So it can be a little bit tricky, but it's also worth mentioning. And then there's groups and networks. So for example, if your play has an all-female cast, there are a lot of WIs out there. There are a lot of women's groups, and you sort of think, oh, does the WI still exist? Yeah, and actually they do book outings for stuff. There are other initiatives and charities you can go to. Things like the Black Ticket Project is a really great one. There are specific embassies you can go to that often have a program of events that they'll email out. Students' unions, synagogues, mosques, community centres. Get on that list and research it and email those people with an offer or with a code, or consider working with a community ambassador for somebody who is well connected in that community, which can perhaps help you to bring back some of those community leaders to a special event at the theatre. Schmooze people, give them some drinks and some pizza and some wine, talk to them about the show, and then have them go and disseminate how they felt about the show into their communities and hopefully encourage people back in. Without budget, it can be tricky, but it's always possible to set up things like email swaps. So we call them PS swaps on other venues' newsletters, which Oscar and I will do from time to time. Social media swaps as well, tweet swaps. It's not going to shift volume, but it is going to contribute to that thing of people seeing something 2 or 3 times and then booking. And I think with all of this is to remember that there isn't, with audience development and with reaching audiences, there isn't really a magic way of doing it, and it can be like chipping away at it over time. And that there can be a lot of other barriers to attendance for certain groups. It may be that the certain groups you're trying to reach have never been to that particular venue before, or they've never been to any theatre before, and then it's going to take a lot to encourage those people to come, and it's going to take more than just an offer code or a discount for people to feel welcome in that space. So thinking to yourself, could we go into that community centre and offer a free workshop themed around the production? That's going to make people feel a lot more comfortable to then potentially come to the actual show itself. There's a lot of information there. Please, again, if there are any questions, do fire away. I feel like I'm talking really fast, so if you need me to go back over anything, then again, please do so. But kind of bringing it to a bit more of a conclusion, answering the question, why isn't your show for everybody, is because untargeted emails to everyone in your database are very scattergun. And I was thinking about this earlier today, and I was thinking, I'm vegan. So if Sainsbury's sent me an email with a meat offer, which they just sent to their whole database because they went, yeah, great, this is a great offer. I'm sure it will appeal to people. You know, I'd be affected by that communication. I wouldn't suddenly want to eat meat, and it would annoy me, and I'd probably unsubscribe from their emails. So sometimes producers will say to me, oh, you know, the show's not doing well, can we have an email to the whole database? The answer to which is always no. We can find different groups to email, but we would not scattergun the whole database in that way. If people only ever book for a children's show, we're not going to, you know, contact them about something which might turn them off from the venue overall. Making kind of putting flyers across the whole of London could be possible, but also it's quite diffuse. You're going to have to spread your budget quite far, when really, if you've done a couple of targeted runs around Soho for something that's LGBT focused, then you probably would have had a better yield from it. I think the thing to remember is to not panic as well. I think that thing is to panic and start doing anything and everything, but the better approach is to stay calm, look at the data, see if anything made an impact. Even if you sold 3 more tickets the day after you did a particular e-shot, then look at that activity and do more of it, but in a slightly different way, maybe with a slightly different provider or at a slightly different time. And work with the venue, listen to the venue, and sometimes there can be way out there suggestions, thinking, well, why don't we have a really low entry price and not do discounts later on, which can seem scary when people are thinking about their bottom line. But as I always say, 50% of nothing is nothing. So you know, you're sort of looking at a yield on paper and thinking, if we sell every ticket at 18.50, we'll be loaded. But it doesn't always happen that way. And audience development is a tricky thing that you have to, it takes time, and it would be hard for an independent producer to sort of do a lot of that legwork independently without the support of the venue and kind of the work that they're doing there. Yeah, that's kind of a very quick whirlwind through ways in which you can try to target your audience and then find them, and why I hope everybody watching this will never go into another meeting and say, my show is for everybody. So I think we've got about 5 minutes left. If there are any questions, let's have a look. So, how do you approach creating a campaign, particularly artwork, for a show when you need to reach multiple target audiences that respond to very different things? Such a good question. Such a good question. I guess it depends. I guess it depends really, and I'm always a fan of artwork which contains characters and faces. So the show that's coming to mind, which had a few different, it kind of had a few different themes in it. We had one called My Dad's Gap Year, which was about basically, well, it's kind of what it says in the tin, about a dad who gets to his sort of 50s and goes off to Thailand to have his gap year, where he finds himself in a relationship with someone who's transgender, which is a new thing for him. And the show also had Michelle Collins in it as well, who's from EastEnders, which is also another association that people have. And it also centered a lot around mental health. There was a really big mental health undertone. I think with that show, we focused on the elements that we knew that would bring people in. So we had the rainbow flag on there. We had the artist who was transgender. We had Michelle Collins in the picture because she does have the EastEnders Association. And so we have multiple characters in this image hitting some of the sales points. With the mental health storyline, which was very strong, it's difficult. It was also a play that's very funny, and it's difficult to convey that the play is very funny and also that there is, you know, a kind of serious mental health undertone at the same time. And sometimes there is the need to, in a commercial environment like Park Theatre, is to pick the thing which will initially sell you the most tickets, and also kind of get the most clout. We've got, celebrities there for the PR coverage, but also the other themes can be addressed through other pieces of content, such as videos for social media, Instagram live series. We've done a few of those recently as well. So I guess it's about looking at the campaign as a whole, as well as how strong the artwork is, and also just, how strong is that artwork? Is that artwork really beautiful, emotive, funny, colourful? Is that going to get picked up by, the various publications that you're going to? I would say definitely for the Trinidadian show that we've done, we've focused on having people of colour in the image, models initially, and then we'll do something, photo shoot with the cast later on. It's an ensemble piece, so there's people with different backgrounds, but it's very important to us that we have the right faces in the image so that people know that it's for them. I'm not sure if that answers the question. It's a tricky one, and I guess it's about balancing priorities. Don't know if you've got any more. Got a couple of minutes left, so if there is any more, fire them away. Let's have a look. So what do you do when a marketing campaign doesn't seem to be translating into ticket sales? Yeah, I mean, there is no magic wand or golden bullet for that scenario. I guess what the first thing people will often reach for is discounting, although we just did some analysis on that, and actually it's not it doesn't necessarily fix the problem, discounting. I guess there are other ways you can fill seats. For example, we work with a local housing estate called the Andover Estate, and if we just have a performance which is looking really low, we'll offer some free community tickets, and that in turn generates a good word of mouth. I think when something isn't selling, I guess it's about unpicking why that is. It's tricky if a show has 1-star reviews, obviously you can't fix that situation, but what you can do is reframe your marketing in other ways. So pulling out tweets and social media, and possibly doing a Vox Pops video after the event of audiences saying how much they enjoyed it, even if the press didn't. So you could turn things on its head if a lot of your campaign is focused around pushing the press reviews. Flip it around and pick something else that's good, such as, maybe it's a crowd pleaser. People are voting with their feet as opposed to with the press. And seeing what extra resource can be put towards it in a targeted way. Paid social media doesn't cost a lot, so that's another one which you can be used to top up a campaign as well. Industry offer codes can often be a friendly way of getting a little bit of money in, but kind of still shifting tickets. And also there are other things, like perhaps the venue you're working with has a pay what you can scheme, and perhaps you could extend that over the course of the run. So if something isn't translating into ticket sales, you can still have a little bit of money in via extending your pay what you can scheme. Yeah, no magic bullet on that one, just creative thinking. One more question. What's the favourite and least favourite thing about being an arts marketer? I think the favourite thing is probably working on a campaign sort of the whole way through, like from inception, from being one of the first people to read a script. You create the image, you see the whole show come together. If it sells well, that's really satisfying. For example, I worked on The Father at the Tricycle, and now I'm seeing, when I went to London the other day, that it's being released as a film, and I was thinking I was the first person to have worked on that show in the UK, created the first image, with Kenneth, who was Ken Cranham, who was the father at that time and in the West End as well, and kind of seeing that show come to fruition. It was a sellout. It was incredibly emotive. It transferred into the West End, and getting to be involved in the whole process from start to finish is really, really enjoyable. I guess the least favorite thing relates to the previous question, which is what you do when people are getting very upset if something doesn't sell. And it will be the marketing and sales team that get the flack for that. And even if, potentially there were 1-star reviews for whatever reason, there's that old joke that we say, which is when the show's going well, you praise the director, you praise the actors, and when a show goes badly, you blame marketing. But rarely when a show goes well do people say, wow, that was an amazing marketing campaign that really carried that through. So it's not something often that kind of feels like it gets the kudos, but you know that it does in the background. And the thing is that the shows that aren't selling well are the ones you work harder on, you know, working incredibly hard on shows that aren't selling well, and possibly having to deal with you know, some big emotions from people in the team. So I guess that's the difficult bit, especially when a show is really good and it's not selling and you've thrown everything at it, and it's not getting you very far. Those are the challenging days. But at least there's also a satisfaction that comes from knowing, well, it didn't do great, but we threw every idea we had that we could afford at it, and we can't say fairer than that, really. Which I think, unless there's any other questions, that brings us to the end of the session. So I've been here talking in isolation. I don't know if anything I said makes any sense, but I'm more than happy for people to contact me over at Park Theatre if anyone wants to talk about career in marketing or anything we've got going on. We are currently recruiting for a marketing manager. If anybody is interested, please do take a look on our website as well. I think that the KHTOnline series is really great. I'm super happy to have been asked to talk. It's every Thursday at 1 o'clock on Facebook. So please keep tuned. I think they are going to put this on their blog and on the YouTube channel. So yeah, this has been great and I hope it was helpful. Thank you, everyone.